All right, welcome everybody to the studio. I bet you didn't realize that we were basically in a dance studio here. But I'm joined with my buddy Nick Mattingly. He's the CEO and co-founder of Switcher Studio. I'm Zach Pennington. I am our partnership manager here at Switcher Studio, and we have a special guest who we'll introduce here in just a second. Nick, do you want to give a quick overview for people who might not be familiar with what Switcher does? You want to tell them a little bit about the product and the company? I think you're on mute, Nick.
Oh, there we go. You think I've done this before. Switcher is a video creativity platform. The video you're seeing today is made with our platform, and it allows you to edit while you shoot using iPhones and iPads. So rather than just showing your camera, you could put a logo on screen, text, graphics, photos, videos, screen sharing, bring in guests. We're all hanging out in different places today. And if you want another camera or angle, you can just open the app on another iPhone or iPad. So really allows you to enhance the production quality of what you're producing using hardware you already have.
Awesome. Yeah, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Switcher, as Nick just introduced it, a lot of people know us for our multicam in-person setup. But as Nick mentioned, everyone today is actually in a totally different city. So Nick's coming to you from Louisville, where we're headquartered. I'm here in Austin, Texas, and our special guest is in New York City. So we're pushing the boundaries of the interwebs here today. So today we're going to talk about LinkedIn Live. That's where we're currently being broadcast. So it's a little meta, and just social video production, live video production in general. During the broadcast, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to post those on the LinkedIn post of this stream. And then we'll peruse those questions and comments and try to get to them near the end of the broadcast. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on our special guest today, Elena from LinkedIn. Say hi, Elena.
Hey, everybody.
So Elena Smith is a product manager of both video and live video at LinkedIn. Elena is part of the small handful of LinkedIn employees that Nick, myself, and some of our other colleagues have had the pleasure of working with in rolling out our integration with LinkedIn Live, and launching a preferred partnership, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But first, I'd love to get to know you a little bit more, Elena. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, kind of how'd your career get started? How did you end up at LinkedIn? And kind of what do you do at LinkedIn now?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thanks so much for having me on the show today. Really excited to be live on LinkedIn, and hey to everybody watching, both in New York City and all around the world. So hello, everybody. So I'm Elena. I've been at LinkedIn about a year and a half. And as mentioned, I lead video and live on the LinkedIn product, specifically focused on user-generated content. And I got started in video at my last job at Bloomberg, where I led the video platform for the media side of the business. So live video, Bloomberg.com, the OTT apps, including like Roku, Apple TV, and also like the live streaming experience across platforms, and the connected home, like Amazon Alexa and the voice platforms. And that's really where I started to fall in love with the creation side of live video and real time, really just how exciting real time content is. But prior to that, I have been in product management for over 10 years, focused on fintech at Amex and at Morgan Stanley. And I also worked at GE for a while, and I was in a leadership program. So I've always just been in love with watching movies and video content, and I'm just really excited to be doing it for a job now. And so I just love it. And I've always been a builder at heart. Like, my favorite part of my job is seeing things come to life and seeing people use them. So I'm really excited to be at LinkedIn and just loving the things we're shipping for users right now and creating a just live community in real time on LinkedIn. So
that's awesome. Where did you go through the leadership program at GE? Was that in New York?
So I went to Syracuse for school, but I'm from Ohio, Northwest Ohio, and I was in the energy business at GE. And so I was in Houston, Texas in oil and gas. I was in Cincinnati, in Evendale, actually at Aircraft Engines, in Schenectady, New York, where it is very cold and the zip code is 12345, at like energy business, and in Atlanta at headquarters. So I moved a lot, but learned an incredible amount from just amazing people all around the country. Like I worked with this really amazing guy who wrote the first like privacy policy for engineering at Bell Labs. And he was at GE at the time, and he was walking me through, I wrote this like security and privacy policy at Bell. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Teach me all the things. So everywhere I go, I just try to be a sponge, both from people with experience, but also from users. So
That's cool. Yeah. Before we hopped on the live broadcast, we were kind of talking about our Midwestern roots. And when you said you went through GE, they have a big presence in Louisville, where we're headquartered, but also Cincinnati. My grandmother actually worked at the aviation in Cincinnati.
On.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Look at that story on the 1234 zip code.
You have to look that up. Yeah.
Something to that.
Actually, what's really crazy is Kurt Vonnegut actually worked at GE in Schenectady and at 1235. So he worked in communications. So that's always like a fun GE trivia that I love. It's good enough for Vonnegut, I guess.
I think GE is like the, Mufasa of companies, where it's like everything the light touches, like GE has had some influence over.
It's unreal, especially in the Midwest. You look at like Erie, Pennsylvania to Evendale, Ohio, it's just all over. So it's fun to.
They have a really great management and leadership program. And if you look at some of the top companies in the country, the people that came out of that program, you still see it to this day. So it's a lot of good stuff happening.
There was was it in Business Insider, that whole article about, did you see that? It was really cool. It was like all these people, these technical leaders, and where did they end up? And it's like, CIO of this major company and all over the place. And I shared that on LinkedIn if you're looking for it. You can find it on my profile. But yeah, it was a great place to start my career. And like, I met great mentors there. And it was really just founded in my love for technology and learning. And it was just a good place for that. And I learned like a lot about leadership there. And I got over my fear of public speaking through training that they had in the leadership program, which was really, really great. So.
Now, you said, how long have you been at LinkedIn now?
About a year and a half.
Okay, awesome. And did you come into the role that you're still in now? I
did. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So tell people a little bit about kind of what you do as the video lady at LinkedIn.
Yeah. So what's really cool is at LinkedIn, we have many different teams across product management and globally. And I'm in this team that we call Content Experience, which focuses a lot on user sharing and the feed and things that render on the feed and on your profile. And so I work with an incredible team of designers, researchers, engineers, data scientists to optimize how we share video content and live video and experience it on LinkedIn. And so that's everything from, the player and autoplay to really exciting things like optimizing real-time conversations. And, especially when you look at live video and the complex creator-viewer relationship that you have, both sides. And then, of course, you have the API layer as well, like looking for the balance and building all three. It's just a really fun challenge. And it's a really exciting place to be in a time when just things are a little bit messy and a little bit crazy. Like here I am in my New York City apartment in my living room, and like my dog's probably going to bark. Like I'm not in a fancy studio, or I'll just at home, and like I didn't really clean up at all. It's just about being real. And I think also live video on LinkedIn, but also live video in general right now is really a great, having a good humanizing moment where you can just be real. You know, you're not usually not in a fancy studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can bring aspects of yourself into it and be really open and honest. And I feel like that's just what people kind of need right now. You know, they don't need just really overdone things in a formal studio. It's like, hey, share information that can help me, you know, share things that you're an expert on. And, you know, they can just bring people together. And I just love that, you know.
I think that that's a really great perspective. And I think that, you know, that's something that we really value at Switcher, because we're kind of the platform for people who want to take their broadcast to the next level of quality, but it's still a very raw, organic, live kind of on-site, you know, thing, right? It's not, we're not trying to compete with the CNNs of the world or the ESPNs, right? It's the content creator at home or at their church or at their, you know, middle school soccer game, right? That wants to show off what they're doing with a couple iPhones and iPads, right? They don't have these satellite trucks with $50,000 worth of camera lenses in them, right? It's a way to just democratize content. But, you know, people have been consuming really high quality content for decades. And so there's some threshold. I think we all had that kind of initial Zoom fatigue.
Right.
At some point when you have 50 heads on a screen and everyone's talking at once, you know, it's like we need to up the production quality a little bit, right?
Right.
We can't all be in our pajamas, you know, screaming over each other. But to your point, the authenticity is there.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think last year, you know, so many people were trying to just figure out the technology and get something to work. And it's become such an important part of how we operate day to day that I really anticipate this coming year, like, people are going to be looking on how to improve and how to elevate that experience for everyone to bring more value. And you know, I think it's really exciting to see what LinkedIn's done with video, not just live video, but there's, you know, the ability to upload video, and there's LinkedIn stories, and there's a lot of other products around that experience. But I'm curious if you could share a little bit about the types of use cases you see on LinkedIn Live and how it's maybe different than some of the other content you might see on like Facebook or Twitch or other live experiences that people are maybe used to.
For sure. No, great question. I think, you know, really the beauty of LinkedIn is its professional nature and, you know, just looking to just bring economic opportunity across to people all over, right? And so if you think about that and you root the content in that, that's really what I see. It's, you know, how can I share information about this job? Or how can I help people prepare for interviews? How can I give back? You know, and there's just a really wide range of that. And then there's also like, how can I promote my business? You know, how can I talk about what my business does? You know, what I have to offer to people. And I like that because it's a little different than just pure promotion. It's applying what your niche is and what you have to offer to the professional community as a whole on the platform. And that's just really powerful. And so while there is some entertainment content that, you know, comes through, you know, it's a little different than often what you'll see elsewhere, where less concerts, more talking about career development, or like we see all kinds of cool stuff. Right? Like one of my favorite things is there's a plumber who does like a weekly plumber show. And like, that's so cool. It also to invigorate people into roles, like advanced plumbing roles. It's so cool. And they like another example I saw that I love is hiring managers were doing like an AMA about open roles at their company. That is so cool. Like, hey, here's the job. Right? I'm going to take it beyond that basic description that you read, which has good stuff in it, but you always have questions when you read a job description, right? Yeah. It's like, what if you had an opportunity to ask the hiring manager right there and then make that decision in that moment and say, yes, I want to apply to this, or I have a friend who would be really great at this, and you try to bring them into the live stream and get them to ask the question. Like, I I love that because it really aligns well with what we're looking to do. And it's also people just sharing, and you're going to walk out of that having learned something. And I think really that to me is kind of that bottom line is I want to walk away having learned something that helps me, in my career journey, whatever that is, because it's such a broad spectrum when you look at career journeys, right? You have students, you have people looking for internships, you're looking for people to change, careers or jobs, move from service industry to, different kind of industry, looking to level up, right? Or just like people looking for inspiration. And I also really love seeing that side, like the inspiration. And I see people sharing, like there was this show that I saw a couple women start, like former managing directors from banks. And they just started chatting with each other and talking about what they went through in the 80s. And they wanted to share, they recently were retired. And they wanted to share these lessons. And they were so realistic and they were so applicable. I watched it and I was just like, I can't not watch this because it's so applicable to me. And I just love that. And so what I also hope to see more on LinkedIn is maybe more retired professionals looking for an outlet to share, especially with the pandemic and you can't like go out and, mentor people in real life. But I really see that as a cool niche to further, promote on the platform.
Yeah, I think the recruiting use case is really interesting, right? Because, we're a small company, we're a startup, right? A couple dozen employees. And, job titles are funny, right? At startups and in tech companies and just in general, right? In 2021, all of our jobs have changed so much. And so you might look at two companies posting the exact same job title with very similar descriptions, and it could be very, very different roles, very, very different cultures, expectations, what have you, right? So I think to your point, if you're a recruiter or a team lead or whoever, and you want to show people what you do, not just tell them in kind of this block text, bullet point, you work hard and you achieve objectives and all this kind of fluffy, generic language. Like, let's show you what the product does, right? Let's show you what our team actually focuses on. And so much talent, especially technical and kind of marketing talent and those types of things are in such demand that you need to be able to differentiate your roles, right? You can't just say associate. Like, what does an associate even do, right? They associate with something. You need to say like, no, they're talking to customers, they're on the phone, they're getting on video calls, they're, submitting requests for features or whatever, right? So it's really just, like you said, peeling back the curtain, giving a little more authenticity.
Right. The social recruiting seems to be a new format that just only exists on LinkedIn because of the nature of the network and access to professionals. And you're seeing companies get to put their culture front and center and show it to the world.
I love that.
And it's great for those businesses because at the end of the day, businesses are made of people. And the people represent that brand. But on the flip side, like someone that's looking for a job or doing thought leadership or a domain expert is a personal brand. And so brands want to be people, but people are brands. And it's just such a great format to really see those two worlds come together. So we're really excited in being a preferred partner with LinkedIn. And it's really cool to see the different kind of content that that is evolving here and being created, and we're seeing it play out in real time. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what the Preferred Partner Program is and some of the things that are available to customers that are benefiting from those relationships and the technology and tools that you all have made available on LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, definitely. Great question. So really, the Preferred Partnership Program relates back to the LinkedIn Live API, right? Because right now on LinkedIn, in order to create a live stream, you do need to, sorry, there's my dog, to use a third-party tool like Switcher to create your live stream, right? And so we have two layers. We have the Preferred Partnership Plan and the Certified Partnership Plan. Certified means that you're approved as an API partner to integrate with Live, right? You're good to go. Go ahead, like integrate. It's awesome. Preferred is more elite. It's a really smaller group of partners, including Switcher, where you have exclusive access to, the product team, the engineering team. We put our heads together, we brainstorm, but also you get early access to features and just more layers of partnership with it, including marketing, preferential treatment in that way. So I think both layers of the API partnerships are critical to LinkedIn Live, because obviously it's API creation for live video, but also it's just great to have a community of like yourself to just jam on ideas, talk about things, get feedback, and also to just, if I come up with an idea, just say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Like, how would you implement this? Would you use it? What do your, creators think about this? It's just a great sounding board to ensure that when we build something, we can have the kind of impact that we want. And so our business development team mostly runs that program. There's more information on the live microsite, but I'm excited about it. I've already gotten so much out of it, and just building great relationships with all of you. It's just really cool to learn more about your companies.
I think that LinkedIn is really interesting as a live video platform for kind of two reasons. And to some extent, they're both exclusivity, right? One is that you have to apply and be approved to be a LinkedIn Live, which we'll talk about kind of that process in a bit. Whereas a lot of the other platforms are kind of open-ended. And then the other piece is that you actually have to use a third-party software to go live, right? So Switcher, as you mentioned, is one of the preferred partners. There's a handful of certified partners, but there's no built-in LinkedIn Live tool. And so when you're trying to decide as a LinkedIn user, A, do I want to go live? And then B, how am I going to go live? You really have to kind of be mindful of which tools you use. And I think that LinkedIn's done a good job of selecting a diverse group of tools that cater to a diverse set of both kind of content expectations as well as like hardware and environments. And right. So there's, even if Switcher is not a good fit for you, there's another company that is, right? And so LinkedIn kind of covered all their bases with that by not just going deep with, their own integration or a single partner. So it's really interesting how it's kind of an exclusive thing, but it's also very accessible at the same time.
And through that partnership, it's not just the ability to go live, but together we've been able to roll out things like scheduled posting and geo-targeting. I think pretty soon we're going to be implementing the ability to have subtitles auto-generated. And there's a lot of new things where you all are innovating. We're able to implement those very quickly and make them available to creators on the platform using Switcher and LinkedIn together. And I think so many of the videos made on LinkedIn are really conversational because of, again, that professional network, and it's easy to talk to a customer, a domain expert, a preferred partner, and share ideas and get feedback. But a lot of that content today is being made in front of our computers because we're stuck at home, and this is how we are communicating. Switcher being on iPhone and iPad, once we have the ability to gather again and to get back to the office, and I think we're going to see even more new types of content on LinkedIn through behind the scene experiences and those moments that happen at conferences that aren't on stage, and just all the content opportunities that are around us all the time that you're not able to do in front of a computer, but you can do when you can pull out your phone and use something like Switcher to get that content on LinkedIn. So we are excited for whatever the new normal is and being a part of that in the kind of experiences that are available through LinkedIn Live and Switcher Studio.
One of my favorite things that I saw, like content-wise pre-pandemic, was behind the scenes. I love that behind the scenes content, like day in the life. One of my also favorite things I saw was it was from a nonprofit, and they were like on their phone, obviously, and they were like, come behind the scenes with me. We're going to go to this meeting. And obviously it wasn't a confidential meeting. It was about the nonprofit. And I think they were asking for funding, or it was a partnership meeting. And it was just really cool because you got to see everything in that journey, from entering the building to, highlights from the meeting. And you really got a sense for that business, that company and what they were trying to do. And you could be like, oh, why did you ask this question or whatever. And it was so, you know, like it was so accessible, but also that's something that, you know, doesn't need a lot of high production value. You know, you don't need a bunch of lights. You just pretty much need your phone, and you need the, you know, the ability to go behind the scenes. And while not all companies can do that, it's like there are actually more opportunities for it than you probably think there are. Because you may say, oh, are people going to find this interesting? But like, try it and ask for feedback. I think that's something just to think about, especially for smaller businesses, is like, people might actually be really interested in that. Like, you don't always need to have like a big name or a famous person doing an interview, or, you know, it's just like, hey, if you feel like you have something to say, like, try it out and like just ask. I think especially on LinkedIn, people are very open to giving their, you know, points of view on what they think about your live stream if you ask them. So
yeah, those are all really great points. I'm going to ask another quick question specific to LinkedIn and the preferred partnership program. So recently we rolled out a feature for scheduling live streams across LinkedIn and the preferred partners. So talk to us a little bit about kind of what's the plan or the goal of having a feature like that, and what does that do for a LinkedIn user who's wanting to go live?
Yeah, for sure. So we built and designed this feature just after seeing how creators on LinkedIn were self-promoting their streams and the kinds of things that they were doing using existing capabilities on LinkedIn. We wanted to see, well, how can we emulate what everybody is doing now, but also just improve it? And what we found is that creators really wanted an easy way to schedule and give the ability for people who are interested to just like get a notification when it's live and just be able to join it. Like, and it's that, hey, I need eyeballs on this. How can I pre-promote and just have a simple way to share that on the feed and also get a link ahead of time and have that link really transition through that live experience. You know, like, I don't want to do one thing and then do another thing and then have a third thing and then nobody knows which thing I'm supposed to go to. Like, one place, I know where to go, it's there. And so that was really our goal in building the experience. And yeah, we launched it public in December, and it's just fun to see them, you know, after you open it up, to just start seeing them pop up in your feed. I'm just like, yay, like, it's just really exciting. And so, you know, overall, our goal is to just try to give as many tools as we can to creators to be successful on LinkedIn. And, you know, we are newer than the other platforms, and I recognize that. So we don't have all the bells and whistles, but we are actively working to build an experience that provides a lot of value on both sides. And like a couple other fun things that we launched, you know, along with scheduling is moderation. That's something that you do on LinkedIn if you need to mute somebody who's like spamming your chat, posting a lot of links, or we see like people copy and pasting just in the chat. And, you know, it moves the conversation away from the topic. And, you know, you want to move it back to the topic, and so it can be a productive chat. And so we launched that in December. And also we launched the ability to like comments, which really helps also to provide different layers of engagement to viewers who, you know, it's like, hey, I want to +1 that. Like, now you can like comment. So December was a big month of launches, and just excited to see lots of usage of everything. So
yeah, for sure. And I think on the scheduling topic, you know, unfortunately for us, none of us are Beyonce, right? So I don't think we can just drop something last minute with no promotion and it just take off like wildfire, right? I think very few people on this planet have that ability, right? And so for the rest of us, whether we're big, you know, Fortune 500 brands or small businesses, like, we kind of need to build some critical mass around our live streams. We need to get people interested. That's, you know, one of the downsides of going live is it might not work for everyone's schedule. So if you can get people to build their schedule around the broadcast, you're not catching them off guard, and you can pick times that are easy, like lunch or after work or what have you, depending on what you're showing.
Totally.
I think one of the tangential kind of benefits of scheduling is just the interview format in general. We are very fortunate to have some of your time today to have this conversation. And so we planned for that. We scheduled for it. So that was happening anyways, regardless of whether we just decided to push it out to the audience now or start promoting it in advance. So scheduling really kind of plays into that, grabbing time on someone's calendar to share ideas or play out a concept or talk about your partnership and how you're working together. And I think it's just such a huge benefit to not only have awareness around the content that you're creating, but play into one of those behaviors that was already there to begin with.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take I was going to say, Nick, I just wanted to introduce anyone who's joining us midstream. So for those who are just now catching up, we've got Elena from LinkedIn, who is involved in all things video, both live and canned video. And then myself, I'm a partnership manager at Switcher, and Nick is a CEO and co-founder at Switcher. So we're just talking LinkedIn Live, video production, the Midwest, and and everything above.
Gotta talk about the Midwest.
Yeah, all roads.
It doesn't get talked about enough.
There's that meme that's like, wait, it's all Ohio, right?
I haven't seen that, but I agree.
It's, if you look it up, it's the astronaut meme, and they're looking at the Earth, and it's like the whole Earth is Ohio. It's like all roads lead to Ohio, good or bad, which is funny because
it's actually really true.
We're all connected there. For our viewers who are either just now joining us or who have been watching, don't hesitate to post some comments on the thread. We'll get to those comments here in a second. We'll try to answer them here in real time, and if not, we'll try to answer them in the comments later. So let's move on to our next kind of topic. So you'd mentioned use cases, everything from recruiting to behind the scenes to plumbing. Have you seen any that do really well that maybe are kind of obvious that they would do well, or some that are like, you were surprised of how successful they've been, either from a viewership standpoint or an engagement standpoint? Talk about some kind of content ideas that maybe our viewers could replicate their own version of.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that anybody who builds up excitement ahead of their stream, their content can do really well. And so some trends with that I've seen is just little teaser videos or GIFs that kind of also help lead up to it, or definitely spending some time creating a really nice graphic showing your, if you're doing an interview, like who are you interviewing, what's their title, where do they work? And then you can reuse that in a lot of different ways. Like you could reuse that in scheduling. If you're creating an event on LinkedIn or elsewhere, you could reuse that imagery there. And I think those really pay strong dividends. And I've definitely seen that a lot. Just a little bit of graphic design can just go a long way. So I think that goes really well. I also think that after the stream, using the content and reusing it, because it's a lot of work. Recognize that, to organize it, schedule it, find the guests, do everything to make it successful. So sometimes people don't have time after the live stream is over to watch the whole thing because it can be long, right? So finding little nuggets, clips, and reposting them, I think is a great technique that I've seen also pay off. I also recommend the LinkedIn, not to shamelessly plug LinkedIn again, because but I do work there. The LinkedIn editors or the news team has incredible weekly shows. They get some big names too, which I realize is not, available to everybody, but what some of the things that they do and how they run their shows or how they engage the audience, I think are tips that anybody could take away. There's a show called Get Hired by Andrew Seaman, who is just amazing at bringing people together, listening to his audience. And also he's a master of pre-promotion and post-promotion. He leverages all kinds of vehicles and content types to bring people in, and also to summarize what happened after the fact. He uses LinkedIn newsletters, he posts, he uses scheduled live, he asks questions, he's always checking in with his audience, and he's just grown a really big following. Also because he creates content that's useful and helpful and relatable.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that if you ever feel stuck, just like ask for feedback and just kind of like take a step back. I like to take a long walk when I need to do this, walk the dog, put the phone away, you know, maybe don't compare yourself to other people so much, but just really start thinking like, what is useful and like what is needed and what's something that people could take away from this, and try to recenter on that. I think whenever you do that, like, you're going to come up with some good ideas.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big fan of emulating people that I think are doing it well, right? Like if something appeals to me, there's a reason why, right? I'm a consumer at the end of the day. We all are. And so I think, you know, if I'm watching a YouTube video or a LinkedIn live stream or what have you, and I'm like, man, this is so engaging. It's like stepping outside yourself and being like, why is this engaging? What could I do to emulate this, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, Steve Jobs is famous for the great artist steal mantra, right? Like some of Apple's best products were copies, you know, better copies of other people. And so I think, like you said, those examples you gave of people who are doing LinkedIn Live right are a great place to start to get inspiration. And, you know, to your point about design, I think shameless plug for Switcher, using a tool like Switcher gives you the ability, you can see right now, like the ability to throw up our titles on the screen, right? This was tapped in on the device on an iPad. You don't have to have Photoshop or Canva, although you can use those tools to produce, you know, backdrops and whatnot. But, you know, someone with not a ton of technical or even graphical expertise using a third-party plugin or software tool like Switcher could very easily up the quality, up their game, you know, mimic these kind of professional people who are crushing it, right? Oh, okay, part of why it's engaging is there's screen sharing. Part of why it's engaging is there's titles, they're switching between camera angles, right? And so the good news is
talking head.
Yeah, again,
we're all staring at our camera for an hour.
It's not the 50-person Zoom grid where you can't see anyone, right? It's a little bit more CNN-like, right? Or a little bit more broadcast quality.
I might add, like, don't be afraid to fail. Like, public speaking is the #1 fear for a lot of people, and making a video can feel like that times 100. You're not going to nail it the first time. You're going to make mistakes. Like, my internet literally just dropped out, and like, I missed part of the conversation. We're right back at it. We're live, baby. But you know, start small. You know, have a few goals in mind, have a few talking points in mind, but you know, be ready to look at what worked and what didn't, and try again. And it's through that frequency that you'll get better, that you'll grow your audience, and that you can kind of level up the production quality. I guess you know, start with just a camera and a logo on screen. You don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah, that's a great advice, Nick. I think a lot of people want to do the, you know, level 10 final product, right? They want to reach their final form on day one. And you don't have to, right? Because one, you probably don't have a huge audience on day one unless you're starting with a big brand or a big company. And two, to Nick's point, like, good content wins. I mean, if you think about how many memes and TikToks and viral videos and stuff we all share to each other, they're all really poorly done, right? Like, if you think about them from a very superficial kind of objective, you know, most of the viral tweets have spelling errors, right? You know, and sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's, you know, not, right? But it's funny how we have these super high standards for the content that we want to produce, but not for the content that we consume, right? Like, we can watch, you know, grainy talking head Zoom calls and learn a lot from them, but then we want to do, you know, Sony Red 4K camera videos when we do our own thing, right? And so it's an interesting kind of double standard I think a lot of us content creators have in our heads, and we kind of analysis paralysis ourselves to death. But yeah, using a tool like Switcher is a really simple way to go from maybe a level 1 production to a level 2 production, right? Just add that lower third or that intro graphic or whatever, and then you'll learn how to get to level 3, 4, 5, etc.
One other thing I wanted to add real quickly is the live format in particular, the edit while you shoot kind of flow. Like, when we get done with this video, we're done. Like, we're going to be able to get back to work or take another call. Like, I have another call as soon as we finish the stream. and like I might jump a few minutes early so I can pad it a little bit. But there's so much video that's made today where it's just as important what you don't show as what you do, and it has you feel this need for it to be really polished, and there ends up being big gaps between one piece of content and the next. And so with something like live video, you're able to schedule the time to have the conversation, make the video, and get it out there, and either turn around and make another one because it's that easy and that quick, or get back to work. Like, you're winning so much time with just the live video format in general.
I think it's also like a bonus of trying to just use what you have, you know, to test it out. And I think that's what's cool about Switcher too, is like, have a phone, you might have like an older iPad laying around, you know, and that's something too I was thinking about. I'm like, oh, like I've got an iPad here. Like, what if I wanted, you could start simple, but then you could also level up, you know? And so I think there's always something interesting about that, because I remember right when the pandemic started and you started seeing like all these, even famous people, or just trying to figure out how to live stream, do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
And you saw people's like spouses or kids like holding cameras, holding phones, like managing things, like ring lights, just so that their parents could do their jobs or their siblings could do their jobs. You know, people's basements. I loved seeing, I mean, maybe it's because I always loved the subreddit battle stations, where people would post pictures of like their computer setups. And I always thought that was so cool. And so when in the pandemic side, you could see like, oh, iPad on a stand. And, you know, it's just like, that's what you have. You know, you didn't have time for somebody to, or the funds maybe at the time, or they weren't available to like ship you some advanced camera and get on a call and have someone teach you how to use it. You needed something that would just work.
Yeah. I mean,
and
even
so that's
really
nice.
hard to come by the past
right.
year.
Like, how are you even going to get one?
You're paying 4 times as much for it.
On eBay. Like, what are you going to do? And so it's just nice, like, simplicity, right? Yeah. And like, it's a big screen, so you can also have a nice preview. And yeah, it's just like, those cameras are great, and the iPad. So I think there's also just something great in that, saying like, I'm going to try it. I have what I need, you know?
Yeah. I think too, it's been really interesting to see even the biggest of brands and TV shows like start operating the same way as everybody else. I mean, there was a moment in time where every single late night show was done at home, and they were doing it themselves. And you're like, the main host that we're used to seeing is got his wife behind the scenes running it.
Right.
Pioneer Woman is like one of the biggest food cooking shows, and her kids are holding iPhones, and it looks just like her TV show that they did before COVID ever happened. And so it's just really interesting to see, you know, something that we're used to seeing on television, and they have it the biggest budget possible, the biggest team and talent available. There's a lot of people involved in that process, and they were forced to use the same tools that we all have access to, that anybody watching this video right now could pick up and accomplish with Switcher and LinkedIn Live.
I do want to make one soapboxy comment, right? Which is, everyone in the company makes fun of me for this, but I bring up the word tripod probably once per every single meeting that we have. And the reason I bring it up is because prior to owning tripods, like, my ability to produce content and participate in all these things, it felt so daunting. But what's so funny about it is I didn't blink an eye spending $1,200 to buy an iPhone, right? Like, you click, okay, iPhone 12 Pro Max, $1,200, like, sure, why not? Tripods are $20. They're 30, $60 for a nice one. I have a really nice one right next to me.
And Zach, real quick, there are $400 iPhones and like $300 iPads.
But I'm just saying,
you don't need the newest one.
You don't. Well, but my point is, you'll see people who, like me, have no problem spending $1,200 on this super high-end camera computer, right? And then they're like, I don't know how to make my videos look good. And I'm like, $60. You can make your $1,200 camera phone into a $1,200 camera if you just put it on a tripod.
Have you done a live show just like all about the gear, like, and almost kind of like Wirecutter, just like thinking of something here, almost like Wirecutter, where it's like, I bought these 4 tripods. This is why I like this one. I feel like a lot of people might get something good out of that. Like right now, like when I was trying to pick out a new camera, I went on Wirecutter. I was trying to figure it out. Like what's the best value? I want like real feedback. I don't want like spot con. So that could be something fun because you have a lot of gear.
We do offer a lot of gear recommendations.
Oh, you do?
On our website and then through our support. Now, we also we have an enthusiast group that's pretty large on Facebook. And I'd say probably a third of the posts that get the most engagement are the behind the scenes, like check out all 50 of my tripods and my road case and my mic adapters. And
it's
people
a
love that stuff.
Curse because someone new coming in is going to see somebody with all the toys that just like went and went for everything to start at level 10. And if you're not ready for that, it can be really scary. And so we're trying to figure out the balance of like, what can you do with just the one device? What can you do to, spend $12 on a clip?
What is that? What is that?
Cut a hole in a shoebox and use that.
Yeah, just like prop it up books. I used books for a while at home. What is that you're holding?
This is just an iPad mount. So like most, 95% of the smartphone mounts won't hold an iPad, but this one will, right? But again, this is, $40, $50, right? It's, and the iPad was $1,000, right? So it's like as a percentage of your production budget, spend a few bucks on ring lights are $20, $50 for nice ones, right? So I think the barriers to entry are a lot lower than people realize they are. And a lot of us are walking around with these $1,000 cameras in our pocket. And so we could put out really good quality. So that's my hardware soapbox. I always feel like I have to tell people because when they set their phone up on the shoebox, it falls over. They're like, I'm not going to do this. Right?
It's like Switcher live stream bingo, right? You have to say tripod. You have to say like iPad mount,
ring light,
ring light, exactly. Bingo, right?
Okay, so we got a few minutes left. I'm going to look at the comments here for some questions, but the last question I want to ask you directly, Elena, is what's the future of LinkedIn Live? So, what's coming down the pike that you can obviously share? There's probably some things you can't, but what's kind of, it could be high level or it could be specific features, whatever you want to share with our audience.
Yeah. So I think
one would be what you all have done around events. I think there's such a big opportunity there. So I'm sure you'll hit it, but I want to make sure we get that one in.
Oh, totally. Yeah. We'll definitely talk about that. So I'd say overall, the most important thing as we look at the future of live video on LinkedIn is we want to build and grow live to really build this real-time community on the platform that brings together the creator and the community of the viewers to share in real time, but also to continue it after. And so we're really going to continue to work on enhancements to the product, enhancements to the platform to bring these groups together. And so that's through events. We're really leaning heavily into, enhancing the events product and adding more features, making live a more predominant place there. Because while definitely in person is going to come back, we're all hoping, vaccine, everything. But I also feel like a portion of events that are in person are going to have their content live streamed. I think that also mirrors into some of the shifts we'll see in just overall behavior. Same thing in medical. I really hope that telemedicine continues to be a part of it. That's something that became huge out of necessity. And it's just like, think about how that democratizes medicine in a way where events that were only in person, it's very costly. You may not have the opportunity to go to that event, right? But what if you could watch part of it? Some of those tickets are thousands of dollars, right? And like someplace that you might not be able to get to. Like, let's try to get that information on live streaming on the internet. So that's what I'm really hoping for. Also, just leaning into more tools to keep live safe, on both sides. So always be working on that. Like I mentioned before, we released a muting feature, which is core moderation feature for a live video, where you can, remove the participatory capabilities of a viewer in your live stream. So we obviously want to continue to work on keeping live safe on both sides. It's a very important part, trust and safety on LinkedIn. So everything we want to do just kind of keeps that in mind, and also just engagement as a whole. So those are a couple things. I know one question I saw in the chat that always comes up that I wanted to hit on too is like, how do I get access to LinkedIn Live? Mm-hmm. And also like, hey, I didn't get access. What can I do? So I want to answer both those questions. The first question is, how do I get access? So to get access to LinkedIn Live, you do need to apply. Just search like apply for LinkedIn Live on Google, and you'll get to a place to apply. Both members and pages can live stream on LinkedIn. So just feel free to apply on either side. If you don't get access, I have 3 tips for you. Grow your audience, grow your follower base, your connections, like lean into that. 2 is to post original content, like create that content experience on LinkedIn, like make some videos, even if they're short, like write an article, just like build that content on your profile or your page. And then 3 is
types of content.
Oh, different kinds of content are good. Just like original content, right? Versus reshares, you know, like write something or create something like an image or a video or GIF. I think those are important. And then 3 is always a critical one, which is follow the professional community management guidelines on LinkedIn. Like, just be kind on the platform, be helpful, be professional. And yeah, those are my 3 tips. So if you don't get access at first, like work on those 3 things and then apply again.
Yeah, and I think part of that is for such a long time, a lot of individuals have seen LinkedIn as a place to post their job experience, and they're not actively using the platform and reading or watching videos and content or contributing and creating content. Making video is creating content. And so if you can establish that you are using the platform in that way, then obviously you will know that they're going to be a much better candidate to contribute through live video. So yep. if your LinkedIn profile is a wasteland and you're not utilizing it, start to spend some time there, and that'll get you to start thinking about the kind of content types that will work. You can start planning out things that you could do live once you do get approved. But that's really going to be the difference in, like, are you actively using the platform, or is it just a place where you're storing information?
Right. It's also a good place for you to get feedback on things. Like if you create something, a native video, a short clip is lightweight. You can make that on your phone, and you can just kind of get a sense for, what do people have to say about it? And like, is this something I'd want to do an hour-long stream, on, when I get live access? Or like, how did I feel about creating this video? Like, and also you get to do things like test your lighting, like stuff like that, which you don't think about at first. Then you're like, oh, maybe I need to change my light bulbs or something. So, yeah.
I'm gonna make a shameless plug for Switcher here as well, because a lot of people everyone knows us for live video. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually use Switcher to just record content and not broadcast it. And so you can take advantage, as Nick said earlier, of the edit while you shoot functionality. So if you wanted to do a video chat session like we're doing now and pop heads on and off the screen and titles on and off the screen, you can do all that and not select any destination, right? It doesn't have to go to LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube. And then you could upload that content as is to any of the platforms, including LinkedIn, right? So that's a way for someone who might not have, video editing software otherwise, like they don't have Final Cut or Adobe or iMovie or what have you.
Or like a lot of time, right? Because it's just so much faster.
Yeah.
Or just the buffer to make sure you're comfortable with the content. If you're not ready for live, like, start practicing and pull out the best of moments that you share. Maybe it's not the whole thing.
That's a great tip. Yeah, because those lower thirds seem like, oh, I don't know how to do that. They look so professional, but actually they're just like a couple taps.
Yeah, you pick your color, and
if you can make an Instagram filter, you can make a lower third, right?
Right.
Is that the new tagline? If you can if you can make this sepia toned, you could do a lower third. Yeah.
If you can type the person's if you can type the person's email address into an email program, you can make a title on Switcher Studio.
There you go.
I don't think it can get a lot easier than that, unless you connect it like directly to your brain or something, but we're not quite there.
One thing I wanted to hit on that you'd mentioned, and I know Zach might have a few comments, you talked about kind of hybrid events or things that might start happening in person but still have a live element. And one thing I feel like we've seen over the past year is that through the live format, the access to talent is a lot different than you might have in the real world experience. Like our company is getting to a point where it might be really hard for me to budget 3 days to travel to a conference to speak for 1 hour and get back to the office. But if I can budget 1 hour to come on for the panel and be a part of a production and have the conversation, I'm going to have a better chance at saying yes to those type of opportunities. And there's also going to be a big value exchange for people participating and consuming that content, because maybe you've got the CEO of Yum Brands, or a professional athlete that never would have gone to the conference in the first place, but they can share their experience. So I think the hybrid kind of approach is going to allow like access to talent for these events in a way that we haven't seen before. And on the flip side, like as an organization, we might only be able to pay for 2 or 3 people to go to a conference. Well, now it's like, raise your hand, who wants to participate? It's there waiting for you to get that information.
All right, let's look at the comments here.
I do have to jump. Zach, I'm going to throw to you.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Nick.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Yeah, take care.
And Zach, I think I have time for like maybe one question.
Perfect. So a lot of the questions are about kind of Switcher's features, I think. So I'm going to try to see if I can reword this a little bit more into something a little specific to LinkedIn. So one of the commenters was asking about the mobile gaming market, which I know gaming has kind of largely been Twitch's sweet spot, right? That's where they got their start, and that's where a lot of their market share is. Are there any, I'm going to tweak their question a little bit and say, are there any non-obvious niches, right? So LinkedIn's a very business kind of jobs focused, professional networking site, right? Are there any more entertaining content types that you've seen on LinkedIn that you were surprised by?
Yeah, so I think, obviously LinkedIn has jobs and lots of career related things, but I like to think of it as more broad than that, because regardless of the industry you're in, even if you have a job posted on LinkedIn or you don't, like you have a career journey, you have a path, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you are in the entertainment industry or you're in the sports industry, like there's a lot to talk about there. You may not be broadcasting a baseball game, but there's a lot of business and there's a lot of professional related things in that journey to working in sports, right? Like when I worked at Bloomberg, there was a great podcast they had called The Business of Sports. And you're just like, wow, there's so much. I mean, you watch Moneyball and you're like, oh, there's also a lot of math in sports, just so much.
Right.
So I think it's always about finding that piece about your role. And even if you're like, oh, I don't have a traditional job in an office, I don't sit in front of a computer, like that doesn't matter. Like your career aspirations, your journey, you're going to have advice for people who want to do what you do. It's the same in fields like creative fields. Like if you're an animator or you're, a freelance designer, like there's a lot of things to talk about there. Your creative process, like how you source your next role, how you deal with a lot of the things that come with maybe freelance work, and like how you balance all of the things together, or even things like how you set up your workspace. Like there's a lot to share. And I think like sometimes you have this block of industry block and you say, well, I don't know if that fits. But I say like, if you're working, and you're hustling, you've got something to share, regardless of, you don't have to work in finance or be a consultant or something like that. Like there's such a broad range of things to share about. Like, and so that's my advice.
Yeah, I think that's great. I want to put a quick plug out for something and then we'll wrap the broadcast up. But
Great.
I want to see more companies on LinkedIn who sell physical stuff doing live video, because I think especially for Switcher being such a mobile friendly platform, if I'm buying a $500,000 Caterpillar, earth moving machine, like I want to see the person in there in the seat turning on all the switches, and then like
in the dirt.
I want to have the interactive experience, right? I think a lot of professional kind of services and software companies, like you just hop on your laptop and you do a screen share, and that's kind of your whole shtick, right?
Totally.
But for the 97% of things that exist in the world, right? I was showing off my little tripod mount here, right? Like I want to see stuff on LinkedIn. I don't want to just see talking heads sharing ideas. I want to see the Rolls Royce factory, right? I want to see them hand stitching.
That's so cool,
right? I watch that stuff on YouTube all the time, but it's very canned. It's well produced. It was filmed 5 years ago, right? But I want to see, like, what is the Rolls Royce factory doing right now, right? Or what is somebody who manufactures those like blenders, like the Ninjas and like the Will It Blend type series, right? Like the what's the big one that everyone loves?
Yeah, it's like the craftsmanship side of creation, where it's like, how long have you been doing this? Who taught you? Like, I have a friend from Ohio, of course, because we talk about Ohio, who is like a master cobbler. Yeah. And she traveled all around the world learning from master cobblers, and she makes shoes from scratch, mostly for like celebrities or like football players and stuff. And like, it's incredible.
It's so fascinating.
How do you do that? Like, she takes molds of feet and like makes shoes. Like, come on, that is amazing. It's like there's all sides of that. There was actually a really cool LinkedIn live stream of architects at a build site, and they were like on their phones, like showing the house coming to life and like talking about it. And I thought that was just so cool and so different. And again, there were like, big Caterpillar like machines there, and it was like, whoa, this is so fun and different. And I really enjoyed watching that. So I agree with you.
I think Mike Rowe proved that people think what they do for a living is boring, and then you actually film it and you actually show it to other people, and it's like, whoa, I didn't know. Or how it's made on Discovery Channel, right? Like, those things are so fascinating. And I think that that's my 2021 resolution for LinkedIn Live users, right? So I want to see something other than you sitting at your desk, right, typing on your computer. I want to see you sanding guitars. I want to see you,
how cool,
digging ditches and everything else. Painting, yeah, exactly. Making stuff, right? So awesome. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us. It was awesome. I think our viewers probably will get a lot out of this. I know I have. Stay tuned, everyone. There's plenty more to come from LinkedIn Live and Switcher Studio and our preferred partner relationship with them. So we're going to hop in the comments and see if there's anything else we can answer. And this broadcast is something we do regularly. So if you're not already following the Switcher page, give us a follow, and we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Cheers.